Hello and welcome back to another episode on Let's Talk Football Careers with myself, Barry Smith, and today I'm joined by Matthew Jarvis. How you doing, Matt?
Yeah, very well, thank you. Yeah,
Enjoying your retirement?
yeah, it's going far too quickly. Unfortunately, it's 3.5 years now, so it's flying by.
Amazing, how quick your career goes by from such an early age. I've got you down here as played with 6 different teams. You had a cap for England, you've experienced promotion, the highs and lows of relegation, all the different setups. So if it's cool, could we just start off with your youth career, just chatting with you, Matt? First, when I was doing a wee bit of research, I noticed that there was a sport runs through your family, with your parents as well, I believe. Could you tell us a wee bit about that? What that was like?
Yeah, not quite football, but yeah. So both my parents were England #1 table tennis players. Mum won the European mixed doubles. So it's yeah, an interesting. I can't, to think back to when they were young and they were playing table tennis is crazy. But yeah, they were very good indeed. So it wasn't something they pushed me and my brother to do, but it was still quite handy.
Can you play it yourself?
Yeah, not too bad. Yeah, I had a few games, especially on when I played for England. There was a table tennis table there, so there was a few players that played against me that got put to the sword.
No, they don't want to challenge you. I noticed they also opened Jarvis Sports as well. That was something they went on to do as well. They opened Jarvis Sports Company.
Yeah, that's right. They started their own table tennis company called Jarvis Sports, and they had it for a long time, and eventually sold it. So and my dad carried on. He was the England head coach for a long time. So it's yeah, it's something that they were very passionate, very good at, but very passionate about. And my dad, yeah, really enjoyed it.
That's quality. I mean, I see here as well, going through your school, you done well at school as well. You were a county champion, swimming, athletics as well, and you came out of school with 10 GCSEs. So you're starting to sound like that guy that everybody my age was watching and going, he's good at that, he's good at that. But you were successful in school as well, eh?
Yeah, I was that annoying kid, I know. But I absolutely loved it. School, I'm going through it now. So my son's 8, but he's doing everything that, or more really, that I was doing as a kid, but when I was 12, 13. But yeah, I absolutely loved it. I did football, swimming, athletics, cross country. Yeah, and really enjoyed it. I think it's like weird looking back. I think at that age I really actually preferred doing the individual sports because I think I could rely on myself. I knew that I'd either done the training or I was mentally prepared. Whereas football's a team game. There's a lot of things that you can't have any control of. So yeah, so as a kid I absolutely loved it. And Surrey champion swimming, Surrey champion athletics, Surrey champion cross country. So it was
With
good.
that. Definitely that annoying kid. But fair play to
Yeah.
you, well done. And I see for there you started off, you had a wee stint at Millwall, I believe, but that didn't really. Could you tell us about that, please? I just read a wee bit.
Yeah, so obviously, as kids, you're getting scouted by all different clubs as a youngster, and yeah, I was at Millwall for 7 years, and when it got to trying to get a youth team contract when I was like 16, I got released. I got told I wasn't good enough, and yeah, I got released. And as a 16-year-old, it was devastating to be told you're not good enough after you've been there for 7 years. So yeah, a really tricky time, but luckily enough for me, I remember coming out of the change room where there was like 4 coaches, and you get told yes or no, really. And then it was me and my dad, and I come out, and there was a Gillingham scout right there, and asked me to play in a game the next day for Gillingham, and I actually turned it down because it hit me hard really as a 16-year-old. And luckily for me, this Gillingham scout, he kept calling me, and it was about 2 weeks later that I actually then went on trial, and I didn't. My confidence had gone as a youngster. I was a winger, getting told you're not good enough. My confidence was low, and I went on trial. I didn't play brilliant, but luckily they saw something and offered me a youth team contract, and then it's just like a light switch. It just changes. And, with, a year later, I got from 16 being told not good enough and 17 playing in the first team in the championship at Gillingham. It's just crazy.
I've spoken to some guests that are like maybe sort of 60 plus, and they tell me about how the transition for the youth set up to being told you're potentially not good enough, and there was no pathway for you, no help. Whereas I think you sort of fell a wee bit closer to that category where you had a wee bit more guidance, but it's mad to think so many players. I was hearing that Dennis Bergkamp with Ajax, they changed the policy from under 14s judging them to judging them at under 18 level, and they nearly lost out on Dennis Bergkamp because at under 14 they said he wasn't good enough. And it's strange one,
I mean, it's crazy. There's so many stories of people that are getting released and they make it in different teams because everyone develops at different stages. It's so hard to tell when you're 16 whether you're going to be a player or not. You get some good, you'll know whether they've got something, but to make a call on it at 16 is really difficult.
Yeah, it's like you say, there's different levels of time that they come through. But I can see here over your time at Gillingham, I mean, it was successful. I had over 110 league games, 12 goals. You made your debut against Sunderland. Can you recall that, your debut?
Absolutely, I can recall it. Yeah, I remember, Sunderland at the time were the best team in the league. I think they won the league that season. And because I played with him later on in my career, we were chatting about it, and Stuart Downing, actually, that was his debut for Sunderland. He went on loan, and it was his debut for Sunderland in that same game. But it was Julio Arca and Stuart Downing on that left wing, which was ridiculous. And yeah, for me, just coming on at home, we lost. I think it was 3-1, but incredible for me to, as a 17-year-old, to get on the pitch and to play in front of the home crowd, and especially against the best team in the league. Yeah. But it definitely opens your eyes and the reality of first team football and knowing what you have to do. And if you don't track a runner, you're going to get punished, and also going to get hammered by your teammates, and it actually means something. And that was a real wake up curve for me. But I was very lucky. I had a really good experienced changing room that looked after me and guided me. So I was one of the lucky ones.
Yeah, that plays a big part. I mean, getting the help from the older players at the time, where I think back then as well, I say back then, 20 years ago, but back then they were more inclined to help you, I think. Whereas the latter part of your career, you'll notice certain pros just do their thing and leave the ones to it.
Yeah, but I think it was a hard school as well back then. You would get told, and you would get hammered if you did things wrong, and that side of things was a massive wake up call. And like for me, I realised that quite quickly that if we didn't get a win or we didn't get a draw and you didn't get a bonus, lads weren't going to be able to pay their mortgages and stuff like that. And that was a huge sort of realisation of, actually, this is men's football. You've got to work extremely hard, and don't let people down, and that side of pressure starts to build, which was but for me, I loved it. I thrived off that to a degree. As a 17-year-old, you don't really have any of them pressures.
No fear. I think as well, as a winger, that in an instant you've got a chance to just change a game, regardless of how bad a 45 minutes you've had. You could come out with a bit of magic, and you're talked and remembered about it. And I think all of that accolade comes with it as well. Keep you motivated.
Yeah, and that's where, like, obviously the Gillingham fans were brilliant with me, and the older lads were just so good because they knew I had something. And they would just keep giving me the ball, and if I made a mistake, they'd just keep giving me it again, and that's how you breed your confidence. And for me, I never wanted to turn down an opportunity of taking on a fullback. I watch the game now, and all these wingers, they just don't take anyone on, and they come back inside, and I'm screaming. My first ever thought was, every time I got the ball, was, can I take him on? That was my first thought. So for me, back then, and as you said, you have no fear when you're 17, 18 years old. So for me, every time I got the ball, it was like, right, I'm taking someone on. And I felt that from the crowd as well. That was my whole role in the team, was to make things happen and create stuff. So I thoroughly enjoyed it.
Mm-hmm. You can feel it when the crowd, they lean forward, the bums are off the seat, as they say, and you can thrive off of that. But I think Gillingham you were there, I've got in here, 4 years you were at Gillingham. And you were also managed by Neil Cooper, fellow Scot as well. What was he like to work under?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, yeah. It was it was a short sort of spell
Mhm.
with Neil, but yeah, he was a good guy, good manager. I remember he was a bubbly kind of guy. You know, but the team talks and everything. It was all of the sheets of paper you used to have to roll
Yeah.
over the top and write everything down. But yes. Yeah, enjoyable times for me. I loved I loved my time at Gillingham, and I had some great managers. I had some interesting times,
Mhm.
but for me, it was all part of the journey, and it was the start of mine, and I absolutely loved it.
I think Gillingham kind of made you resilient as well. It taught you, like you say, the tough times of football, how you have to grit in, but as well as that, obviously, what you have to deal with later in your career when you join Wolves and West Ham, etc. For the top level, obviously, no due respect. But
Yeah, definitely. And
you
if you
back
get,
then,
you know,
sorry, mate, I didn't mean to
no,
interrupt
go
this
on, go
microphone.
go for it.
Going to say your final year, you made it into the Gillingham Team of the Year as a young player of the season, though, I believe. That
Yeah,
was a
that's right.
good high for you there.
Yeah, brilliant. Being in the PFA Team of the Year was it's an honour because it gets voted by your peers. So for me, that's the best one you can get is the rest of the league are voting on who was the best player in that position in the league, and to be voted was incredible for me.
And although you left the following season, do you still get back down to Gillingham games? Do you see Gillingham play a lot and still see
Absolutely.
things?
Yeah. I've been back many times. I still, still know quite a few people down there. It's a great club, and as I say, I've been back quite a few times. I'm still going to go, and I'm still going to hopefully be, involved in it. And I'd love them to get back to where they were.
Yeah, good club, well, good family club as well, I believe. But from there, we moved on to Wolves. There was a lot of transfer speculation in between all this, as it was with all the agents coming through and the money that was coming into football, etc. But you joined Wolves. Was there any other teams you nearly joined? Because I believe you nearly worked under Ian Holloway. Was he with
Yeah.
Glasgow at the time? Yeah, I think he is. He was sniffing about it.
Plymouth, I think it was. Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah. No, I did. At that time, I had quite a few different teams because I was out of contract at Gillingham, but I was obviously under the age of 24, so I wasn't on a Bosman. It was like a compensation package. But yeah, there was quite a few teams. There was like Nottingham Forest, Plymouth. Um, I'm sure there was quite a few others. But for me, I actually flew out to Portugal to meet Mick McCarthy. Um, and once I'd met Mick, there was nowhere else I was going. I have to. He is the best manager that I've worked in my whole career. He's so honest, which is as a player, that's the only it's the biggest thing that you want is someone to be honest with you, and he was. But he was dedicated. He was on the training pitch every day. The team that he had around him was so good, and as soon as I met him, he told me why he wanted me to sign, what his visions with the club were, and that was it. I was going to sign straight there and then.
Brilliant. Brilliant. He's probably comes across as the most charismatic manager that's been going around. There was a clip that you're bound to have seen it where it's the music's playing. He turns around and gives it the eyes. And fantastic. But your first season, you finished seventh. Just missed it in the playoffs. That was But
Yeah,
that
by
way,
goal
just
difference.
that's incredible. I see there's a lot of Scots in the team. You've got
Yeah.
Charlie Mulgrew, Kevin Kyle. You've got Neil Collins. But what was it, Sir Jack Hayward as well? What was he like?
Yeah, so he's it was the training ground. So when I signed, I was the first signing of the new chairman. So Jack Hayward had just sold to
Morgan was it?
Steve Morgan. Yeah, so I was Steve Morgan's first signing, but obviously the training ground was all new. It was all dedicated to him, and yeah, phenomenal. I mean, what he's done for the club was tremendous.
17 years I've found research theory, 17 years, but yeah, I mean, you also had, you made 25 appearances that season, so you got to be happy with that. I mean, I say got to be happy. Did you have a few injuries in between that? Or?
So yeah, so when I first signed, I missed the first 3 months of the season. I got injured in pre-season, which was for me horrendous because I just joined this club. Not many of the fans knew who I was. So being able to not being able to show what I can do was hard. But again, Mick McCarthy, man management was brilliant. He pulled me aside right at the start and was like, look, I know what it's like to move to a club and get injured. He said, I did it when I moved to Celtic. I missed the first 4 months of the season, and I know how hard it is, and I know you're itching to get back. But he's like, just make sure you're right, and then when you are back, then you can show everyone. But don't rush it. Everything's going to be all right. And that, for me as a youngster, what was I, 20, 19, 20? To go to a new club, not know any of the players really, to then have a manager that treats you like that. And then when I come back, I was fit, I was raring to go, and I then played for the rest of the season. So it was a great period for me.
You kicked on there as well, because the following season you got promotion. You actually won the championship that year, and you had Ebanks Blake scoring 25 goals. And you pretty much ran for October right through, near enough right that season. It was probably, team-wise, that was probably the best sort of season of your career, I'd say. I mean, obviously you had individual accolades, but as a team, the way they played that season was brilliant.
Phenomenal, honestly. I spoke about it many times, but in pre-season you could tell we were going to be a force to be reckoned with. We'd had the season before where we missed out on the playoffs by goal difference. We'd added a couple of players into that in the transfer window in the summer, and we come back pre-season and we could feel the energy in the change room. You could feel the performances in pre-season, and we then we romped the league. Don't get me wrong, there were spells where I think we went on a 13 game without a win, but it just so happened that other teams were doing the same. We finished really strong. We had such a good group of players, as you say, like Ebanks Blake. When you got the ball anywhere near the goal and he got it into his feet, he was always going to get a shot off, and more often than not, it was going in the back of the net. But it wasn't just him. We were that old school sort of 4-4-2, get it wide, put cross in the box. We had two centre forwards. We had Chris Uwelemo, Sylvan. We had Sam Vokes. We had Andy Keogh. We had a top drawer front line. And then we had me and Michael Kitely on the wings. We had Dave Edwards, Dave Jones, Cole Henry, all in the middle. It was just a real free flowing football. Really, it was like that old school. Like, we knew we would score more than the opposition, so we did concede a few, but we knew we would score. So it was just a really, really good time. Really good time. Great squad.
Yeah, but it reminds me of the season that Newcastle had, where they just lost it in the league as well. It was Lee Clark who was speaking. He said that you could feel it right for the start of the season. He says you could feel the camaraderie and everything. Then it does, it kicks on. You signed the following season. You finished 15th, which again, you've kept yourself in the league. That's the first thing you've got to do, I suppose, when you come up.
It's the only thing. It's the only thing you need to do. That was the goal. That was what we achieved. And for us, we did 3 seasons in the Premier League. That's a huge task. Because teams in the past at Wolves, got promoted via the playoffs, got promoted, but then the following season got relegated, and we were able to stay in the league for 3 seasons, which was a great achievement. And to be honest, we should never have got relegated in the 3rd season, really. But unfortunately, these things happen. But really amazing times at Wolves.
But the next season was probably individually your best season there, when you got the England call up. You were called up for against Wales and Ghana, but you came on against Ghana, I believe. But could you just talk us through I'm trying to get it from a fan's perspective, but what's it like? How do you go getting called up for England and representing your country? And that must be fantastic.
It's phenomenal. I'll go right from the start. Wolves, we played Aston Villa away in the early. It was the early kickoff on the Saturday. It was like 12 o'clock kickoff, and it was the first time that Wolves had beaten Aston Villa away in like 30 years or something like that. And I scored. It was 1-0, and I scored a volley. So I remember I went home, and on the Sunday, because I remember Sam Vokes was he was in the squad, and then the next day I was going to meet him, but he then messaged saying he's just been called up to the Wales squad, so he went home. So then I went back the next day. I just got through to my kitchen in the evening, Sunday evening, ready to go back to Wolves on the Monday. And then I got a text message on my phone from the FA to say that I've been called up for England. And for me, I was like, nah, there was loads of talk about, that I was in the preliminary squads and all of this, but I just thought someone was on the wind up. I've known many stories in the past that people have had that text message and it's not been true. So I wasn't believing it. And then I got a call from the FA to say, look, it is true. You have been called up. You got about, I don't know, half an hour, 45 minutes before it's going to be put on Sky.
Wow.
And you're going to get picked up tomorrow morning. You need to bring your passport, this and that. And it just that sort of moment, it was just phenomenal. And I was trying to ring round, telling my mum and dad, my brother, all, just trying to tell everyone that, what has just happened. It just such a surreal. And to be fair, like the England manager at the time was Fabio Capello. So it was like, proper, incredible achievement. And the other thing for me is I look at it that, so I was the only person in that squad really that was at a club that wasn't in the top six, top 6, 7. Everyone else was, at the top playing for the big boys, and I was fighting relegation.
Am I right as well saying you were the first? I'm sure I'm right with this, but Steve Bull was the last Wolves player to get capped for England before yourself, and to be in that calibre with Steve Bull. Brilliant.
Absolutely, yeah. It was like, was it 20 years or something like that from when Steve Bull? So yeah, for me and for the club, it was just a huge honour. And playing against Ghana was incredible. If you're going to play for your country, you could be anywhere in the world. I was at Wembley in front of all of my family, all of my friends, and the amount of Wolves fans, Gillingham fans. Just phenomenal. And I can remember everything about it. I've still got the boots with the grass on that I wore in that game. I got my shirt.
You're going to send them to me after the recording, I'm sure you said.
Yeah.
Yeah, that'll be right. But no, it's amazing. You were saying you've got your boots, the shorts, everything that you.
Yeah, I've got my actual England cap that you get with your name stitched in and everything. Just phenomenal memories. And as I said, I'm just lucky that mine was at Wembley, so everyone enjoyed that experience with me. It wasn't just mine. It was all of my families, all of my friends, all of my, all the Wolves, Gillingham, all these people that went with me on that journey. It was just phenomenal to be able to experience it all, all together.
Amazing, eh? And you were Wales Player of the Year that same year as well, eh? Going on to say that was your most successful individual season, I feel, eh? You Wales Player of the Year as well. I mean, that was your peak then, eh? That was your peak. I mean, what age were you? Been there about 28, maybe
24, yeah.
Right, so you peaked it. But then you were playing at the highest level, or at a good level, with Gillingham for 17, learning all the game, and then you're at 24, eh? But it was a brilliant season then. Memories of Wolves, eh? It was brilliant, yeah.
I absolutely loved it at Wolves. The Gillingham was where it all started. Wolves is where I sort of made my name properly. Got promoted to the Premier League, played in the Premier League 3 years, got my England call. That was, incredible times. I absolutely loved the club, loved my time there, loved the people. Still, look out for Wolves. Still, want them to do well. Still go and visit them as much as I possibly can. I'm actually mentoring the academy kids at Wolves at the moment. So it's just, a ridiculously good club. As I said, it was a phenomenal experience for me. But these things have to come to an end at some point. And for me, I just played for England. I wanted to get back in the England squad, and I couldn't be playing in the Championship to do that. So that was why my move to West Ham came about.
Yeah, and that was 11.5 million you moved to, eh?
It was. I think it was right. It rose to 12.75, something like that once with add-ons and everything. So yeah. I mean, that must be over 100 mil by now, surely.
I mean, when you go back to your Gillingham days, do you think what you started and then your transfer, and I don't know what 6-7 years later for a 12.75 million transfer, it must be surreal, eh? But again, you're getting called up, so you're learning.
Yeah. Totally surreal, getting released, getting told you're not good enough, to them, them playing in the Premier League and playing for England is just phenomenal. It's dreams. That's what it is. It's dreams. But for me, it was West Ham's a phenomenal, massive club, really is, and you don't really realise how big it is until you're there. and you know it's the London, it's the magnitude, the fans, the history, everything about it, and I absolutely loved it. But being club record signing at the time, having that pressure, it was. Yeah, club record signing. So it was, it comes with a lot of pressure. But for me, we finished 10th in the first season. Yeah, it's an incredible achievement to a club that's just been promoted to the Premier League to finish 10th. And for me, in my last season at Wolves and my first season at West Ham, I put in the most crosses in Europe and the most successful crosses in Europe. So it was like, everything was going well for me. It was pretty good.
Yeah, you can see what you're doing, but that is why you're getting called up for England. With stats like that, especially nowadays, where you notice everything, everything's all measured and checked out with sports science, etc. Can I ask you what it was like playing alongside Kevin Nolan as well? Kevin Nolan was played a good few games beside it.
Kevin Nolan, do you say?
Yeah,
top. He was a captain at the time. Brilliant guy, brilliant captain. Was one of them. Like I've been very lucky. My captains in my whole career have been really, really good. Carl Henry was exceptional at Wolves, but Kev Nolan was so good. Obviously instrumental on the pitch. Such good player. Knew where he needed to be. Knew what needed to be done. Worked extremely hard. But as a captain and as a person, he was great. Anything that needed to be sorted out, whether it was nothing to do with him, he would go and make it, get everything sorted so everyone was all right. Top proper captain, proper good guy, and it was a great player. So great times.
Yeah, because he's bound to assisted you making the assist so many times, him passing it to you and then you getting down the wing and crossing it. What was it like playing at this level? I've never really touched on it yet. I mean, this level that you're playing at now in the Premier League against like top opposition every single week. I mean, what was probably the best team you came up against? You're looking at.
Yeah, to be honest, I think like the only way to explain it is so when you're in the Championship, you get less time on the ball. As a wide player, I'm talking about. When you're in the Championship, you get less time on the ball, but it's easier to do something with it. You get past the player or you can do something. When you're in the Premier League, you get more time on the ball, but it's harder to do something with it. So if you get the ball, you think, oh, they're stood off me, so I'll cut in and cross or cut in and shoot. Then they close it down and they block it. You tend to do that and you go down the line. They've given you that yard, but then they got that pace and they can block the cross or stop the run. It was just a lot harder. But for me, I absolutely loved it. I thrived off, testing myself against the best players in the world. Best fullbacks in the world. All full internationals pretty much every single week. Phenomenal. But I'd say the biggest learning experience I had was probably when I was at Wolves. It was my first sort of season in the Premier League. We played Chelsea at Stamford Bridge, and I think we got beat 4-0 or something like that. And it was phenomenal. You just waking, just trying to close people down, and it was just bot round you. And it was like Hazard, there was Juan Mata, William, and it was just thinking, wow, how am I going to get near these people? But you just you do get used to it, but you get to know. You get to know what little tricks of the trade, turning into people, making sure that, if they're doing 1-2, you block that, and you just understand a bit more of what goes on, and everyone's quick, everyone's strong. It's then about discipline of where you need to be when you don't have the ball, and you just start learning all of this stuff that is so important when you're playing in the Premier League, and you know that if you're going to get one chance, you've got to take it, and that's ultimately that otherwise you pay the price.
It's great to hear. I mean, that was what was the best stadium that you played at? Away stadium then? What did you enjoy?
To be fair, being an away player and a home player at Upton Park was pretty cool. And that atmosphere, that sort of being so close to the pitch is pretty impressive, because as a wide player, I'm literally next to the fans all the time, so you can hear absolutely everything, good and bad. And then taking all of the set pieces, the corners, you're sort of pretty much in the crowd. But I obviously Anfield and Old Trafford are brilliant because of the history, because of the Old Trafford, walking out of that tunnel was awesome. But when you're coming out of Anfield and you hear the anthem and everything, it's really cool. But also, I have to say, Goodison Park, I used to love playing because of it's so old school. It's so close. When you have that atmosphere, when everything's like right on top of you, it's really, really cool.
No, it's brilliant. It's just great to hear all these different. And then you moved on. Well, sorry, I need to go back a bit. Sorry, Sam Allardyce. What was it like working under Big Sam? How did you get on?
He got on great. He's one of them that you'd sort of say he's a flip of a coin. In the sense of he's like two people. He's such an old school manager, but then he was the pioneer of the new technology, sports science, all of that side of things, and it's like a counterbalance. He was so good at it in the sense of he broke like just silly things like, so when our first season he was like, right, to first season in the Prem we want to finish 10th, so to finish 10th, he broke it down like you need this many wins, this many losses, this many draws. That's scoring this many goals, conceding this many. That's and he broke it down into such small segments, and then it was like, right, we did 8 after every 8 games we had a review. So we had like this: the first 8 games, you looked at the fixtures, and you're like, right, we're going to get 10 points from these 8 games. And then after the 8 games, you would review it, and we got like 14, and you're like, right, brilliant. And then that's wiped. And then you go start the eighth. So if you were going for like everyone does, you go for a bad spell, but say you've lost 3 or 4 in a row, 2 or 3 might be in one block, and then you're into a fresh block, and you've got a new sort of mental sort of awareness of, okay, we're only one down, let's go, we pick up to the next one. And he had that side of things, but at the same time he was an old school manager in the other aspects of the training side of things, I suppose. But yeah, great. I think we to achieve what we did that finished 10th, 13th, 12th, I think was the first 3 years back to back in the Premier League was pretty impressive.
And you worked under Alec Neil, Norwich. You went on the loan to Norwich, I think, and then you followed on and played 3-4 seasons with Norwich. But Alec Neil, I've wrote in here, the relegation, was that the first season that Norwich, when you joined, you were kind of fighting for relegation then?
Yeah, so I joined the last few minutes of the transfer deadline day in the summer, and went on loan for the season with Alex Neil, and I really enjoyed working with Alex Neil. I thought he was one of them managers that, and he I've worked with loads of different people, but a British, old typical British manager. If you were Saturday game, you would train Monday, Tuesday, have Wednesday off, Thursday, Friday, train, game Saturday. But he was the first that I worked with that sort of changed that, and it was like you'd be in Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, you'd be off Thursday, in Friday, game Saturday. And I actually really enjoyed that. Because you could, if you played on the Saturday, the ones that played would do a cool down on the Monday, but then you would have 2 hard days, Tuesday, Wednesday, because you could get your work in. And then Thursday you would relax, you would have it off, and Friday you'd come in, you'd do your prep for the game, you'd do whatever you needed to do to be ready for the game. And he was one of the managers that, as a player, some players like having lots of information, some players don't. Some players don't like to know anything. They just want to get in and be free and don't overly stimulate themselves. Me, I really enjoyed knowing all of the information. I wanted to know what my fullback was going to do, whether he was going to bomb on, whether he's going to cut inside, whether he was all right-footed, or if he used to cut inside and shoot with his left or something like that. So Alex Neil used to give you so much information, and for me, I really enjoyed it. So I was gutted because I started the first 10 games. I started so well. I scored in my debut, scored in my second game. It was absolutely flying, and unfortunately, I decided to. For the first time in my whole career, to start tackling, and I block tackled Yaya Toure, and that was a really, really difficult and painful experience, which I wish I never did.
I remember at the time watching that season, that I think it was the season that Man City went on to win the league, but it was right in the death they won the league. Yeah. And that season, Yaya Toure, you were playing against him then, but what a player he was! He carried them through that season.
He was phenomenal. Yeah, he could do everything. He was so big, so strong, could defend, could attack, could score, could tackle, could do everything. Brilliant player.
Yeah, you played alongside James Maddison, the young James Maddison as well, though, when you were at Norwich. Could you see the way of looking at him and the way he trains and the way he played in that? Could you see he's going to move up a level?
100%. Even I remember when I think Norwich signed him and they loaned him back because they signed him off Coventry and then loaned him back. But he had to come in for a couple of days just to, I don't know, the physios have a look at him, do everything. But he trained for the 2 days and he was only young. I'm saying, what was he, 16, 17 when they signed him? It must be. And he'd come in, he was confident. He'd come in. We had quite an experienced change room at that point. So, but he come in, he sat next to all of the experienced players, was fully involved in all the conversation. And then, it was one of them that in training, if you liked the first few passes, you want to see what a new player's like and you start firing them into him. Yeah, give him a fire one into him and he would bang, control first one. Second one, he controlled and turned and you're like, okay. And then, obviously he come back the following year and you could just tell, he works extremely hard, does all the extras after training. You can tell that with his free kicks now and everything. It's not by fluke, he practices, but you can tell there's not many players that can receive the ball on the half term and turn, and he does it so well. It looks effortless, but that's the top player that he is. I've got I think he's a top talent.
And you got away, you were with Norwich, I've got in here, you were managed by Daniel Farke as well, is that right?
Yeah.
Another good manager,
Yeah, again, completely different to anything I've ever had before. I mentioned about the days. His way of doing it was, if you played on the Saturday, you were in Sunday. You did a full cool down, like you did the bike, you did the massage, you did the running or whatever it was, plus the stretching, and then you used to do a full gym session, uppers and lower body. But then you would then be off Monday, and then report on Tuesday at 12 o'clock. And then he would go, that's your 2 days off, because you'd have from Sunday afternoon to Tuesday afternoon. Yeah. And he'd be saying so that, and you were like, no, it's just Monday off. You're in Tuesday and you're, but then he used to work, and then you used to work hard. You'd be Tuesday, Wednesday was double, Thursday double, Friday game, Saturday in Sunday, and it was relentless. But top manager.
Do you think you were fitter under that sort of setup than you were under the previous setup then?
Do I think what? Sorry?
Fitter under that setup, where you were saying the what
yeah, probably. But to be honest, that's all individual. I was the fittest I've ever been when I was with Alex Neil and working at that point. That was I was in really good shape. It's just a massive disappointment for me that I got injured. But I was, that's all individual wise. But on the training pitch, you statistically wise, you did more with Daniel Farke.
Mm-hmm. And I've got it just in here as your career was coming through. You were at Walsall and Woking as well, eh? You ended up there for.
That's right, yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so Walsall was because so I think it was about 10, 11 games at Walsall. As I mentioned, I was injured. I got injured at Norwich, and when I eventually, after a long time, got back fit, Norwich were flying at the top of the league in the Championship, and Daniel Farke was he basically said that he wants me to stay, but as a person, he thinks that I should try and get out and get back playing. So we decided that it would be the best thing for me would be go and play some games at Walsall, which I did, and it was brilliant for me. Being injured and being out for such a long time, and thinking that I got told to retire. I got offered a year's pay up at Norwich, but for me it was all about playing and getting back, and so I turned it all down and finally got myself back. And that first game at Walsall, we played in the FA Cup away at Bolton, and I think we lost 5-2 or so, 5-3 or 5-2 it was, I think. But I got 2 assists in that game, and it was just so good to be back on the pitch, getting an assist and feeling that everything about it was phenomenal. So I loved it at Walsall, just for pure getting back to playing football. Really enjoyed it. And Woking, that's it's a local club to me. You wouldn't believe it, but like Martin Tyler, the commentator, he called me up because I'd started doing a bit of media while I was at Norwich, and he called me up and I answered. I didn't have his number, and he answered, and he was like, "Oh, hi mate, it's Martin Tyler." And I was thinking, this is great. What's he going to want me to do here at Sky? And he was like, "I don't know if you know, but I'm the assistant manager at Woking." And I was like, "What?" I was like, "What?" He was like, "Yeah, like we would love for you to come down and play." He said, "I know you've got other things, you've got other offers, but we'd love for you to come down." And for me, I'd been away from home for 4 years. I'd just had my son. I was just about to have my daughter. It just worked perfect for me, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. It was great to be, local club, great club, and to play. That was my whole thought process was I just wanted to play football. I'd been through hell and back for the last couple of years, so I just wanted to enjoy playing football, and it was the perfect club for me.
To get back in your career, actually, I mean, I see some careers and people went up, down, different teams. You seem to have went right up the trajectory, right to the top of your level, and just gradually just came back down and started enjoying it on your way back down. I think,
I think it's when you strive for everything, and I got to the pinnacle. I played for my country. It's just it's just the perfect thing. But then when for me, unfortunately at Norwich, I went through a torrid time of injury, and then once you get to that point, your whole thought process and everything is very not different, but you prioritize a lot of different things. And all I wanted to do was, like I said, I was told I should have retired. I got offered a year's pay up at Norwich. I was told to go, but ultimately all I wanted to do was play football, and I worked extremely hard. I missed out on a lot, with family, I missed my son growing up a lot of the time because we as a family decided to sort of, my wife and son would stay back home and I would stay up in Norwich and concentrate on try and get fit and come up and back as often as we could. But it's for me, I just I wanted it all to mean something. I wanted it all to go through all of this sacrifice and this pain and everything. I wanted to mean something, and that's why I absolutely loved playing at Walsall and Woking, just to prove to myself that I could get back and play, and for that enjoyment factor and being able to do it.
It's brilliant. It's fantastic. Just listening to you go through it, it's amazing. Could I just ask you, I mean, just before as we round up, sorry, what's next for you then, Matt? What's your plans? Are you looking to get into more?
So for me, I do the media and the punditry. I'm doing the co-commentaries. So I'm doing that for 5 Live tomorrow night, actually. But also I've done Sky, and then so I'm doing that. I'm doing my CEO and director of football course, which finish next month. I'm mentoring, as I mentioned, at Wolves, the academy players. I'm involved in a sports psychology app that's gonna really help a lot of players, men and women, and also doing. I've got a golf events company.
What's the name of the app? Sorry, that you've got coming.
It's called Ebb. Ebb, yeah. It's going to help a lot of people. Really, really good, really good. Lots of top people working at the company, and that'll be something to keep an eye on. Also doing a golf events company called APX, which is awesome, doing golf events for the F1 teams. So that's pretty cool. Just trying to fill lots of different parts. I've got so much that I can give back, and loads of different charity work. I'm an ambassador at West Ham as well, so I'm there pretty much every home game and do loads of different works for them. So trying to keep it busy as I possibly can.
It must be difficult when to come off with playing in the big crowds and the build up in the dressing room for it just to stop. It must be, but like I say, there's more in place now to help your players like yourself.
Yeah, it's. I don't think people realise the magnitude of going from playing to nothing is a huge difficult process, one to navigate, even just to fit back in at home, rather than just not playing and having all that routine and everything. So to actually be able to go into other stuff, like I was lucky in the sense that I was already starting to do the media and the punditry. So I was able to continue to do that and then add loads of other bits and pieces into it. So yeah, it's definitely one of them. You just got to try and keep busy.
And again, it's a credit to everything that's in place now, because guys like yourself, that when they finish, you look back 20 years ago, 30 years ago. I mean, I don't know how to chuck names in that context, but I mean, you look at the condition Paul Gascoigne's in now to when you compare it to maybe 10 years back again with George Best, how it panned out and he couldn't be saved. And there were certain months, whereas now, I think to protect the mental health after all that, there is a lot more in place to help yourselves. Do you still have the same agent you've had in that?
Yeah, so I think there's definitely a lot more in place. I think it's also a different mentality of people that are coming out of the game now, because it wasn't. There's so many different roles and jobs and opportunities now which weren't there before. I speak to a lot of the ex West Ham and with the ambassadors, and they were all like they bought pubs and they did this and they did that, and obviously nowadays it's probably not the best thing to go into for money, financial reasons and everything. And it's just so that the opportunities for players now to go into things other than football is huge because of social media, because of all sorts of different things. Your profiles are a lot bigger now with you look at this current Premier League players now, they've got millions of followers on Instagram and whatever it is. They've got their own brands. They can build themselves up into something that when they finish football eventually, they've got this whole other industry that can be to be set up.
Well, listen, Matt, it's been amazing. I hope everybody enjoys watching it as much as I've enjoyed chatting with you. It's been classy. So, what we'll do, right? There's no fancy gimmicks on here. At the end, I always ask for a wee like, a wee subscribe if you enjoy it. But really, like I said, it's just great to chat with you and hear some stories. And we'll certainly keep an eye out, Matt. See how your career pans out as it goes again. But,
perfect. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you very much. Magic. What we'll do, Matt, right, is I'll end the recording now, and then I'll have you chat with you off screen. And let's say thanks very much, all right?
No worries.
Right. Let me just double check, Matt. I'll edit it if it isn't, but I think that's the recording ended. Sorry, I've only done about 10 of these, so there we go. I think that's it, and then I think I'll just press there.